Happy Friday, boys and girls. This is Genvièv tuning in live today from Facebook Live and also from Genvièv TV on YouTube. Last week, we've discussed together the possibilities that we had with hypnosis and brain plasticity to gently and permanently change your personality in a way that fits you better. And today, well, I want to discuss with you what happens when your personality is changed and literally completely obliterated in another form by trauma. And it's usually when you're hit not just by one single, however massive trauma, but by a series of severe and continuous trauma that at this point can literally obliterate the personality who you were. And that is a bit what you call the loss of innocence. That is also what happens when, you know, the idea of the phoenix rising from its ashes, from the Greek mythology, is the idea that destruction of your life, of your values, of your safety, your serenity, your family ties, everything that you knew sometimes can be so violent and so extreme that it literally robs you of the person who you were in terms of a lot of times. So I work with severe trauma in collaborations, of course, with the medical field and licensed medical providers. But that basically is the nature of my specialization. And sometimes events in life will hit you in a way that is so massive that you lose your family as you knew it, you lose your friends, obviously, as we covered last times. Friends tend to disappear when you're hit by extreme. Hi, Barry. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Daniele, Trish, and Nuno. So sometimes, you know, your reality as you knew it is completely disintegrated. You lose your career, you lose your job, you lose your home, you lose your family members, you lose your country, sometimes your landscape, all of what defined you as the person as you knew it. And that can contribute to that incredibly intense fire of destruction in which your brain is attempting to continue to support you. And of course, with extreme toxic stress, what we're going to be facing is prefrontal cortex downregulation. So short-term memories goes out the window. You start coping with sometimes sabotaging mechanisms and mechanisms that lead you to believe that you're even losing your mind. So many of those who come to see me tell me, I feel like I'm losing my brain, my mind too. My brain does not function as it used to. And that's a very simple effect and side effect, sequela to the trauma, so to speak. It's known, it's what we experience on the trauma, and it can come to an extinction, to a massive destruction that is of such scope and such extensity that it really obliterates the person that you knew to be. And so in those terms, you know, there is this Chinese crisis. The word crisis in Chinese is defined by two characters, and there's a big misconception out there that has been going on for decades. In fact, it started with JFK's campaign speeches in 1959 and 1960, when it started being spread that the word crisis in Chinese was defined by two characters, one of which meant danger, the other one was misinterpreted as meaning opportunity. And so everybody, all the motivational speakers, and I certainly have used that also in the past, have started to say that the Chinese already knew at the beginning of making their alphabet that part of a crisis was an opportunity. In truth, it's a misinterpretation of the Chinese literature and language and characters. The other term, so there's one that's danger, that's for sure, that's in the crisis. The other terms means a changing point, a point of juncture, a point where everything changes, and that's your chance to restart and change everything. So that's the true actually meaning of the two characters in the word crisis in the Chinese alphabet. And that gives us a more accurate description of what happens in a time of extreme crisis, where the world as you knew it is becoming obliterated, and yourself as you knew it is completely destroyed into ashes. And that gives us the image of the phoenix, again, in Greek mythology, which rises from its ashes into an entirely new creature. And that is what of adversity, and it's called the adversity advantage. Hi, Kurt. Thank you for joining from your travels out there. Nice hearing your voice this morning. So that gives us the actual true meaning of the adversity advantage that we know, the notion, the concept of adversity advantage. When we're hit so strongly, what happens is our personality as we knew it can entirely dissolve. So in my own attempt to survive the attacks against me that were so violent in the last few years, I often felt like I was free falling. In fact, I was ski training on the mountain with my friends, my team, at some point during this extremely challenging battle. And I told them, I'm plummeting to my death, I'm free falling. And one of them responded, "You're not falling, Genviève, you're being lifted." And I looked at him and I thought, wow, that's such a powerful statement. I felt truly that he was, of course, and as you're ski training on the mountain, you're more in tune with the elements, you're higher in terms of altitude and spirit level as well. And I thought, that's incredible. That's a message from above. And in trauma centers that I visited during that time, I was given a bit of a different perspective, still in the same angle when I was saying, I'm free falling, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to survive, I'm falling, I'm not going to make it. One of the trauma therapists told me, actually, when you say you're free falling, what I see is I see you rock climbing and all of your fingers are dug into the rock cliff and you're holding on with all of your strength. And that's when she told me she felt I had the strength of 1,000 men. And all of these I wrote down because they're such inspirational mottos to keep in mind. And that's what often happens when we're hit by adversity. In fact, I've often referred to those who harm us the most in our lives. And think about that when you think about those who have truly been on a mission to destroy you, to end your life, to obliterate you. What they're doing is, if you look at the picture of your life as a big motion picture movie production, you see that those who play the roles of the bad guys, were those actors who were willing to play the role of the bad guy so you could become the hero who lifts above the most vicious, awful, sickening adversity and reaches above and beyond what you ever thought you could reach, because that's the adversity advantage. That's what adversity teaches us. We can either collapse, and a lot of time we will collapse, and we will stay flat on the ground, and we will stay vegetative, and then there's a point where eventually we're going to stand up and we're going to put our fist up and say, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm going to continue fighting. And what that does is it expands you. So those who harm us the most actually are those who bless us in a way, in a twisted way. And that doesn't mean that what they did was right in any way, shape, or form, but they were willing to play the bad guy in order for us to be truly forced to expand and become more than we were, become more than we had ever been, and certainly become more than we could ever become if it were not for the adversity that faced us. So truly, it's a point of juncture where you're given an opportunity to spread your wings, and either you're going to collapse and burn into ashes and disappear, or you're going to rise from your ashes and soar and fly. And that's what adversity gives us. And in that combustion of the ego, because you lose everything that made who you were previously, in that combustion of the ego, you're really shedding all of the false facets of your personality, including the false relationships that you were holding with people who, when times go hard, just run away from you. That's definitely an opportunity to shed all the dead weight from yourself and your circles and soar and expand and take flight. And so, you know, when you're being dragged, because through adversity, you feel like you're being dragged behind a wagon, like in the ancient time, the torture, the agony of being dragged, and you don't know yet where that painful agony will lead you, because we're often kicking and punching, assuming that this is, of course, everything we didn't want and terrifying. But what we don't realize is, on the other side of this is a world immensely more beautiful than anything we would have been given the opportunity to experience before. And as we know, our fractures, our broken parts are the passages in which the light gets in. In fact, Ernest Hemingway, I'm looking at my notes everywhere. You should see the behind the scenes around here. I'm posting things everywhere. Ernest Hemingway said, we're all broken, and that's how the light comes in. Our broken parts is where the light comes in, and that's the beauty in the broken. And we were talking about this with one of my athletes this week about scars, and our wounds are what makes us unique and beautiful and incredible. And if you spend time exchanging conversations and life stories with those who have lost everything and rebuilt from their ashes, those who have been hit by adversity, you will find a depth of compassion, a depth of understanding, a depth of ability to feel empathy and comprehend and support others that is absolutely non-existent within those who had an easy walk in the park, so to speak, were raised with a silver spoon in their mouth and given everything. It's very shallow. There's nothing there. And when you see those true adventurers, those warriors that we became because we didn't have a choice, when you are hit and when you are fractured and when you are beaten and when you are destroyed, you either die or you become a warrior at some point. So of course, those of us who have survived extreme adversity have an edge. We do. We have sharpened the saw in order to survive and save our lives. So we do have an edge. We're warriors. We are survivors. And we also have a strength due to the fire in which we were forged, which is above and beyond what those who have not faced adversity will ever have. And that is the making of the hero's journey. That is the making of the superheroes. In fact, there is a beautiful song by The Script about the making of superheroes that talks just about that. All of the hits and all of the punches and all of the mockery and all of the wounds are what makes a superhero. So in that obliteration of the ego, last time I was talking about how during my practice of hypnosis, hypnotherapy, forensic and clinical hypnosis, I work with those who have survived extraordinary adversity. I also work with those who want to change their personality and shed some parts. And all of that is very gently done. And trauma does it in a much more extensive level where it can completely dissolve your personality. Hindus talk about the dissolving of the personality, the dissolution of the personality, pardon my French, as a way of elevating themselves. So it's also, I suppose, accessible through intense detachment as well, which is actually what adversity forces us to face. Absolute detachment, not by choice in this case, but because everything is taken away from us. So we are forced to face absolute detachment, and it compares to probably very likely what the yogic masters and the yogic gurus are talking about when they completely let go of everything and detach to the point that they forget who they were and they expand back to the life energy where the personality dissolves. So that's my episode today is a bit more extreme than last time where I was talking about changing your personality purposely, one facet at a time. Today I'm talking about allowing your personality, or actually witnessing your personality, to be entirely dissolved when what hits you is such a fire of destruction that you forget who you are. It gets burned down to the point that during this transition myself, I lost such complete and total connection with the person who I used to be, that I could not relate to the gender in me anymore. I know my body is the body of a woman, of course. There is no doubt about that. But my life energy inhabiting that body didn't feel feminine or masculine anymore. It didn't feel attached to those things that I was so attached in the past, including those relationships who were everything to me until that point in my life where I was literally destroyed and realized that there was nobody else standing except for that army of light that out of the darkness appeared in front of me, what I call the Alliance, those incredible, incredible individuals around the world who arrived from out of nowhere, out of the fog of destruction, to stand around me and help me not give up and tell me, Genviève, you're needed here and we're not going to allow you to give up. These were just absolutely incredible individuals that it just moves you, especially when those who are so close to you and pretend to be your family and your everything just desert you when you're burnt down. When you see those people you didn't know before who abandon everything to come and hold you and keep you strong, that moves you. I mean, that's undescribable. And so that's what we're forming today here on the channel on Genvièv TV, is that army, that alliance. For those of you who are going through what we have gone through, because all of us in the alliance have gone through the epitome of destruction, and that's why we understand. So for those of you who are going through that out there, to know that you are not alone and that we stand stronger together. And by joining our community, and that's easy to do, you simply log on to youtube.com/Genvièv TV and click subscribe. That's the red button there. And it may be in different languages around the world, I'm sure. And you're becoming a part of our community. And by commenting under the videos on YouTube, you're sharing your stories, you're making yourself known by us. And you'll find that community that is there, where all of us have gone through extraordinarily difficult time. And we're now standing strong, still alive, and more open-minded than ever, understanding exactly the path through darkness, because we've taken it. Walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I certainly have, with the fear in my belly that was so all-consuming, that it was a fever that was burning me up at night, impossible to sleep, impossible to eat. I mean, talk about the complete destruction of your physical body as well. And yet surviving like this, because there is this energy of life within us that is magnificent, that is stronger than you've ever known yourself to be, because it's above and beyond what we are individually. It's life, it's the energy of life. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. As you know, my name is Genviève. I'm a board certified forensic and clinical hypnosis instructor, an emergency medicine first responder with the Wilderness Medicine Institute, a brain plasticity, brain rewiring researcher, and a trauma survivor. And my mission here with all of you is to inspire you to stay strong through the challenges and the difficulties that you face, so that you understand that you too can survive, can thrive through adversity, and emerge stronger and redesign your life as you want it to be, to finally live your path in truth, in authenticity, and in serenity, because you're much stronger than you know. And on the other side of your fears is the person who you were meant to be. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. I look forward to seeing you on youtube.com/Genvièv TV, and to read your comments under the video. And until next week, have a wonderful weekend. And again, stay strong. Ciao, ciao.